Hello and welcome to Hysteria. I'm Erin Ryan.
And I'm Alyssa Mastromonaco.
Alyssa, it is my first show back since the end of May. Did anything happen?
I mean, Erin, it's been a warmer than usual summer.
Yeah. Weather stuff mostly.
Weather stuff. I don't know what else happened. It's been both catastrophic and hopeful.
I have to say, the debate happened about a week after I had given birth. And I was holding the baby. I turned on the debate in time for Biden's abortion answer. And I was like, nope, turned it off.
See, and I watched the debate with my cat Norm, who died the next day. So both of it was not a good time. Things have decidedly gotten better since June 22nd.
This has been a roller coaster of vibes for sure.
I could use less roller coaster, more even keel vibes.
Well, hopefully we're going to have a pretty smooth fall. Can't even say that without laughing.
Come on. You know there'll be an October surprise.
Oh, boy. Real quick, the JD Vance drag photos.
What on earth?
Normally seeing somebody in drag makes me like them more.
No, you know what this means about him? It means it's so dark and calculating because it means he knows how to be accepting and what is correct behavior and that he knew it and that he's thrown all of that aside in search of higher power.
Yeah, he is kind of an empty vessel. And one thing that I do appreciate about JD Vance kind of going over like a lead balloon is the fact that it shows how out of touch, and how uncalculated and how in their own little world, like the Silicon Valley power brokers.
The least cool bros.
Exactly. They are not in any way aware of what people like. They do not know how normal people
Nor do they have any sense of humor.
No. None
they
whatsoever.
do not know what's funny. He is up on that stump trying to do improv every day, and it is going over like a fart in church.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I missed you, Alyssa. I really missed you.
Come on, we're back.
I missed our times too. I got to say, my brain is like Swiss cheese. I've been trying to catch up with everything that's been happening, but when you have
ain't no need to catch up.
I mean,
we're starting fresh. New broom sweeps clean, and I guess in this case, the baby is the broom. I don't know.
I feel like I started. I feel like I'm coming into a show after the first two seasons, and I already know what happens in the first two seasons.
Let me catch you up on the first two seasons of The Bachelor.
Right. Or this is the last season of Breaking Bad. And I already know all of the things that happened in all the previous seasons. You know what needs
to be known.
I know. It's been such a wild summer. But I think that the moment that the vibes went from the worst vibes possible.
The worst.
To among the best vibes possible.
Because we needed it.
Which was when Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, like a breath of fresh air, comes breezing in from Minnesota. And he changed the entire course of the presidential election with his just positive Santa Claus energy. People immediately noticed that Walz reminded them of dads and uncles and relatives that they had or wish they had. And the more we see him on the stump, the more we're seeing an example of somebody who is fully a man. Nobody would be like, that guy's girly, because he is very, very much.
Most decidedly not girly.
Exactly. But it is a model of masculinity, of kindness, cheerfulness, helpfulness, usefulness that is such a good counterexample to what we had been seeing from Team Trump, and even from in among the Democrats. I think we have a Jamie Raskin is one person who sort of has this vibe. But yeah, Alyssa, you're nodding.
No, you know what it is? It's we have been surrounded by people who are keen to tell us about all the problems, but not a lot of fixers. When Mr. Rogers is always look for the helpers, where have the helpers been? And the Republicans, more than anybody, are let me tell you why things are broken and who's to blame and why you should have grievance. And Tim Walz just shows up with a tool belt. He's let's fix it. And I think that that's something that we just haven't heard in a long time. And that's no ding on Biden or anything. It's just a totally different energy and someone who is bringing fresh eyes and fresh legs to this race.
Yeah. So this is something that was written into our outline by Fiona, our associate producer.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this question verbatim because I think it's so funny. I don't know.
And then I'm going to be honest.
Is this a hopium high that will last through November?
So can I ask a question? Is that like a reference I'm not missing? Like there's no hopium in the Urban Dictionary. This is just like opium and hopium instead of opium.
It's a brand new portmanteau.
Well, yeah, I just like to make sure because we all know I'm a little Gen X sometimes. This was what we needed. Erin, I don't think that any of us could have felt sadder or worse for like a gambit of reasons after the debate. And I personally, as my estrogen levels aside, not sleeping, not feeling good, not feeling joyful, feeling total despair about everything. And we needed this. Mm-hmm. And I think, look, there are going to be pitfalls. Bad things are going to happen between now and Election Day. You and I both know it. But I think that we've got to take the hopium for what it is.
Mm-hmm. You know, I agree with you, and I find myself getting caught up in it. And, you know, you and I have talked about this, that it's not, politicians aren't for standing. They're
people.
They're people, they're your employees. But I think during the campaign, it is okay to get excited about the people that are trying to get the jobs that you are eventually going to criticize them when they're in it. Because that's what democracy is. And I find myself really, really falling hard for the Tim Walz vibe. I think a friend of mine on Instagram referred to himself as being Walz pilled, which I think
we are.
We're Walz pilled.
Yes, it is. You know what though? I think it's also because he is such a contrast. Trump aside, we've been listening to him drone on for like 8 years at this point, 12 years, however long.
Too long.
JD Vance though is such a poser. Mm-hmm. Like he's such a poser. Like when I want someone who I can look at on Instagram and is like, you know what? I'm going to bring the same smarts to fixing America that I brought to fixing this carburetor. I don't want some fucking broed out douchebag to be like walking on the tarmac assaulting Kamala Harris's plane to be so like, weird. I'm just here to see what my plane looks like. It's like, are you in a 1985 like gang movie? Like, who are you?
Oh my God. It reminded me of like Gaston going over to Belle's house and being like, we're getting married. And she's like, no, we're not. I've found the archetypes that are at play within the election kind of I guess impossible for me to resist.
Cartoonish?
Yeah. Like, so we have Kamala Harris who suddenly is leaning into the like kooky aunt who would like, you can call her if you're at a party and she'll come and pick you up. And she will not tell your parents, but you better not do this ever again.
I think I really relate to that. That is my role in life. I am the one who tells my niece, and my sister always listens. I'm like, you listen, JJ. Someday you're going to get in trouble, and I'm going to be the one you call, and I'm going to show up. Just remember that. Mm-hmm. And that is how I feel about Auntie Kamala.
Yeah, and you know, she'll drive you to the airport. You can stay with her for a week. She lives in the city. She's got an apartment in a tall building. Like she's got a boyfriend. You know, like I mean, the real Kamala is married, obviously, but that's the aunt that I'm thinking of. Yes. And then we have Tim Walz, who is like, you're like the guy who can fix your car and clean the gutters and cares deeply about public education. He's just like, he reminds me so much of. And he reminds a lot of people of like male relatives. Like he's like my grandpa Ryan. Like
he's my Uncle Dieter. 100%.
He's like, and then we have JD Vance, who is the guy your husband is friends with, and they've been friends since high school. And so before he comes to town, your husband is like, look, I know he's a lot to bite off.
But we've been friends forever.
Yeah. And he just needs to stay at our house for a couple days. And like he goes out and gets blasted and comes back and pees your couch.
I was just gonna say his nickname is Detox.
I mean, it's like the type of person who like just brings the mood down wherever he shows up. Like he's just sort of
a blowhard.
Yeah, but like he feels also vaguely threatening. Like and watching. I just think having Walz as this example of somebody who he's not just up there like spreading good cheer by singing loud for all to hear. He's saying things that are like aggressive. He is being the vice president attack dog that he needs to be.
There is something about him that is like, the reason I think that he feels so trustworthy to me is because he has lived the life that most Americans are living right now, and he can actually relate to it. And I think that there is also something about him in the reclaiming of patriotism. Like, I think you and I have talked a lot over the past, how many years have we done this? 5 years?
So long.
Like how Democrats are like not great at fighting back. It's like either they go so low, like they're just not good at it. And he has really threaded the needle in a way that's like, hey, guess what? You're not going to you're not going to try to make, indictments or proclamations around my military service. You're not going to do that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you shouldn't do that to anybody who has served, because they have given of themselves. They've made a sacrifice. And like when he was speaking at AFSCME, and he defended himself, which is someone who lived through the Kerry campaign, when John Kerry got swift-voted by Republicans and couldn't believe it, so didn't fight back against it because he's like, Americans are never gonna believe this, but they did. And Tim Walz not only defended himself, but said, you know what? I also salute and appreciate and respect your service, JD Vance. He's just got like the 360 response that I think a lot of people have been missing on stuff, or have not had the ability to do, because he has the actual lived experience.
Yeah, and I think just going back to him as a messenger, and the way that he's able to stand up for himself. He's not a pushover. And he even is able to kind of like poke some fun at Republicans in a way that doesn't feel like bullying at all. Even though if somebody from Minnesota calls you weird, you may be getting bullied. Like
you're not getting complimented.
You're not getting complimented. But in the aftermath of, Walz coming onto the scene with that interview where he called the Republican agenda weird and Republican politicians weird, and that made him like a star. Trump has kind of been on his heels when it comes to brainstorming new nicknames for people. He's tried Crazy Kamala. He's workshopped Kamabla. He can't even get his nicknames Kamala, right. Lion Kamala. None of them are sticking.
Nope.
So why aren't Trump's insults working now?
Well, a couple things, Erin. One, they're bad. Like they're not good. And if you think about it, his nicknames to date have always been like, what did he call Little Marco? He said he had little hands or something.
No, Little Marco's short. He's a short.
Oh, short. Yeah. Right. He's short. Okay. And the thing about what stuck with Hillary when he called her Crooked Hillary was that even Democrats had lived through some Clinton scandals. So it wasn't, he was tagging her with something that was like loosely within the realm of the believable. And this is like, so Kamala laughs. Like he doesn't laugh.
Girl,
he's lost his touch. Never seen him laugh at anyone other than himself and his own jokes.
Yeah, he doesn't laugh. He doesn't he doesn't do normal people things.
He's gone to, like, I don't really think, unless you're super, super dark, like Trump going out and calling Kamala a bitch. That nobody wants to hear that, unless
also,
you're at the darkest of hearts.
That is so boring.
Or saying that she doesn't even know what inflation is. Nobody believes that. Come up with better things.
It's like we've said on this show many a time, sexism is so boring. Because eventually they get so mad, the emotional men get so mad that they cannot, their brains are like fizzing out and they cannot come up with anything besides like, oh, fucking bitch. Like, oh, okay, very good. Like, I think the first time I got called a bitch, I was like 12. Like most women who have any like bone of assertion in their body at all, like have been called a bitch for many, many moons.
Right. And you know who doesn't care? Kamala Harris.
And you know who doesn't care? Most women.
It's women. Like, okay.
Yeah. Right. It's just like, okay, I'm sorry that you didn't get hugged enough or got hugged too much when you were small. But like, and it sort of reminds me of when, when you're driving and somebody gets mad at you and
flip them off.
They give you the middle finger, they yell bitch out the window or whatever. The best response is just a straight thumbs down.
That's good.
Kamala should start giving just a thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Let's see if my screen will come up with it.
Wait, did it?
We've had a problem with this for the last 2 months, Erin, that whenever I move physically, I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the screen and we can't fix it.
AI is judging you.
Welcome to the new hysteria.
Okay, so it's not working. I think also because everyone's sort of tired of it at this point.
Yeah.
I think when Walz came onto the national scene and we all started to get to know him, it just was like, oh, we don't have to listen to Trump doing that same thing he's been doing since 2015. We don't have to listen to it.
And you know what felt like too when Walz was like, because that I'm like deep into the VP of it all. I love VP stories. And my favorite part was when the media, and again, based on literally nothing, because when cable news was reporting who the front runners were, Kamala hadn't even met with people yet. Okay, so nobody knew who a front runner was. And she meets with people, she picks Walz. People have been saying Shapiro and Bashir. And the way that they came together and were like, that's our guy. Like the speech Josh Shapiro gave introducing Tim Walz was like the classiest, coolest, like down for it. Can't wait for you to meet the Walzes. Also, not nothing. But for Gen X, the fact that their name basically sounds like the Waltons is like not nothing. But I think that also just made people feel like it isn't just like Tim Walz. It's like a total coalescing around kind of goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also, I think we've talked about this over text too, because listeners, Alyssa and I did not stop yapping to each other the entire time we were.
Oh my God! Like I can't. Literally, at least a few times a day.
Yeah, we are yappers to and with each other for sure. But people are kind of tired of the doom and gloom. People are ready for joy, for happiness, for laughing Kamala. Great. Sounds good.
Yeah, great. It's like that line from Stairway to Heaven. Does anyone remember laughter? Thank God. Yes, now we can.
It's just such a I've used the word vibes a lot. I feel like
But it is.
It's just a shift in the feeling of things. And it's been so pronounced that even my family in the Midwest, my parents in like deep red Trump country, my dad texted me and was like, I just feel a little bit more optimistic now. Like, and if that message is permeating even places that have homemade Trump signs made out of plywood set up in fields next to highways that very few people drive down, like it's working. It's working.
It's working.
Okay. And I hate to bring it to this, but are you nervous at all? Like, are you scared?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
Look, we're still on Tinder hooks. It's just the night terrors have subsided, right? Like, I don't trust Donald Trump as far as we can throw him. Like, Erin, the simple fact that he has been on television saying that Kamala Harris made up her crowd size and that she's using AI. I mean, every bit of this is his building block to try to, what we ultimately know will be, if he doesn't win, to dispute the election results, right? Like, we know that that's like the end game here, unless even if the results are like Dukakis level, right? Like loses every state, even his home state, which I think Dukakis lost his home state, but I can't remember.
But Minnesota voted for him. Minnesota voted.
Was that Mondale and Ferraro?
No,
Mondale and Ferraro.
Well, Minnesota was the only state.
That was it. And like, God bless. But like, we know that the more he feels like it's slipping away from him, the more illegal and bad he's going to get. So of course we're nervous. We're just not being fatalistic at the moment because we have a reason to see hope But we all know that, like, the more Trump feels it slipping away, the absolute more incendiary he's going to be.
Mm-hmm. And I don't want to compare this too much. It's not a one-to-one between now and 2016. Yeah. I'm just comparing, like, confidence levels. And I just, I find how confident but a little bit down people were about Hillary in 2016. Sort of like, it was sort of like a slog toward something inevitable that wasn't like, it was much less bad than than Trump winning. So everyone just kind of thought it was like a done deal. Everyone was sort of coasting everything. I hope that it is fresh enough in people's minds and the trauma and shock of election night 2016 is fresh enough that people are not going to lay back.
Do you know how I would categorize the vibes then and now? Back in 2016, I feel it was like everyone was kind of like, yeah, she's going to win. And now I feel it's like, maybe we could win.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
we could win. Yeah. Is it possible? Like, we feel like there is hope, but we all know that there's, I mean, the man she's running against inspired a fucking insurrection in the Capitol. Like, he will stop at nothing. I hope that nobody has forgotten January 6th.
Well, victory needs to be total. Not to sound like the art of war here, but victory needs to be total and resounding in order for it to stick. And it reminds me a little bit of the abortion amendment in Ohio, issue 1 last year. People were saying, that the Republican, gerrymandered Republican government in the state of Ohio would try to like mess around with it unless it was a resounding victory. And it was resounding. They kind of made some noise about fucking with it afterwards.
Yeah.
But it just,
they were going to go line by line and say which line was unconstitutional, that nut sex state of theirs. But get out of here.
Yeah, but it was a non-starter. So we need to win 57% of the vote.
Listen.
Oh, do you think she's got it in her? I don't know. She's surprising me.
Look, we wish it all for her. We are not resting on our laurels.
Yeah. But do you think, honestly, if you had to call it today, do you think we're going to win?
Is this a setup?
No, I mean, we will be clipping this and using it after the election.
Forever. I think if momentum keeps up, I think if the debates go reasonably well, I think if they can keep raising the money they're raising, which I do think of all the things, I do think the money will keep coming, which is good. I think we have a good chance, Erin.
Mm-hmm. I feel the same way. That was very couched. JD Vance joke.
But missed those. I missed those. I'm not good at the jokes, Erin. That's the thing. I can respond, but I don't make them.
Well, you know what? That's what I'm for.